Hello friends, welcome back. So today I wanted to go over my sourdough process. So I started doing sourdough probably a very similar time a lot of people did, like back in early 2020, right in the start of lockdown. I made my first sourdough starter, and ever since then I have been doing it on and off. I go through seasons where my starter dies and I don't do anything for months, and then I go through seasons of making like a loaf a day, using sourdough and everything, like pizza, muffins, all sorts of different things that you can do with it. So I thought, well, I am finally feeling pretty normal so I'm pregnant again. I am 16 weeks pregnant with my little baby Thomas. He is 13 months old, so it is a wild ride being pregnant the second time around with a toddler, but it's been going well. But I did have really low energy for a long time, and so my sourdough died. I left it on the counter and it's very sad. I could probably revive it, like maybe, but I thought, what better opportunity to go through my whole sourdough process than by making a new starter and bringing you guys along with me. So that's what I'm gonna do today. I have my starter beginnings here. I thought about this after I started making it. So in the jar we have half a cup of just regular old white flour and a quarter cup of my whole grain flour, because for your starter, I mean, you can use any flour you want, but it often helps to use like a heartier flour, like rye flour is great, any of those kind of heartier flours. And also it like what you're gonna be making. So I make a lot of wholemeal loaves, and so if I have wholemeal in my starter, I don't know the science, but I think it's better. Don't know, but that's what I do, and it makes a really easy starter. It only takes about a week to get going. So all I'm gonna do is add an equal amount of water now. So I'm gonna add 3/4 of a cup of water, which I will just do right now from my kitchen sink. So you have it in there, and then you can give it a mix. I love using a spoon. The wooden spoon handle is probably the easiest thing to use. Just let it all mixy. Make sure you get everything. There's no like wrong way to do it as long as you get it all mixed up. And there you have it. That is the beginning of your starter. So it needs air, so you don't want to screw like a lid on really tight, but I just place the lid on top. Put it somewhere where you're gonna remember to feed it. I'll replace it with my old yucky starter. So it lives on my little kitchen windowsill, and we'll see you tomorrow where we will be feeding it. Oh. Good morning. It is day 2 of our starter now, and I have my little buddy here. It's Sunday morning. We're about to go to church, but I thought I would just show you guys the feeding of the starter. So this is a step that you're gonna repeat for about the next week, maybe 2 weeks, until you get some good bubbly action happening on your starter. So it's super easy. You can either just feed the starter you have, or if you have more starter than you want, you can discard some of it either down the sink or into another container and then feed it from there. And then the discard can be used in a bunch of different recipes. You can make some yummy crackers, you can make pancakes, like pizza bases, anything, super easy. Hey buddy. Yeah. So I have my scale on, and then I'm just gonna add in, like I said, 75 grams of white flour, roughly. Perfect. And then my 25 wholemeal. Great. And I just get some water, and any sort of cup, because you don't need to measure it really, just because you're going by the grams. And there you go. You just give that a good little mix. Make sure it's all incorporated. pop the lid on. There you go. Hello, welcome back. So I think we're on day 5 or 6 with my sourdough starter, and I just wanted to show you really quick. You might notice a little bit of liquid collecting on top of your starter. That's fine. You just want to pour that out with a bit of your discard. It's just called the hooch, and it just means your starter's a bit hungry, so try feeding it some more or getting rid of more starter and feeding it the same. So just give that a go. Continue feeding it until after you feed your starter, you notice it doubling in size. That's usually a pretty good sign that it's about ready to be used. And if you make your first couple loaves, sometimes it takes a little while to really get into its full strength. So don't give up with your first loaf of sourdough. But yeah, just keep feeding it. If you're not going to use it for a little while, like more than a few days, put it in the fridge, and then when you take it out, you give it a feed. Try to give it a feed usually like 6 to 8 hours before you plan on using it in your loaf, especially if you've kept it in the fridge, just to help it wake up and activate again. But yes, enjoy. Good morning. It is nearly 7 a.m. and I thought today would be the day that I show you how I make a sourdough loaf with the starter that I've been creating. So right now it's probably about 2 weeks that I started my starter. I planned on making bread last week, but I never got around to it. It didn't happen, and so I thought I'll do it this week. So here's my starter. I fed it last night, so you can see that it's quite bubbly, active, very happy. So that's perfect, and it's pretty much doubled in size from my little rubber band marker that I put on it, which is a really helpful indicator. So I'll go ahead and show you a really easy recipe that I use. It's really easy to do daily. I probably do it 2 or 3 times a week when I'm in my, sourdough zone. Yeah, super easy. It's really great for a busy life with like toddlers, or if you're working or anything like that. It can be really easily used. So let's get into it. Okay, so you're gonna want a nice big bowl and just any old electric scales. It's probably the easiest thing. So get it zeroed. Get your starter. You want 100 grams of starter. I'll put the recipe in the comments. So we measure out 100 grams. More or less. That's like more like 110. That's fine. Excellent. And then you want to mix in 350 grams of water. And the water ideally is lukewarm. Excellent, and then you want to give that a mix. Just with your hands is fine. Okay, then you want to add in 500 grams of flour. Alright, so give that a good mix. Easiest probably to use your hands, but you can totally use a spoon or, stand mixer or whatever. Excellent. Once it's looking like it's mostly come together, just scrape off that extra dough. Perfect, then you're going to cover this and let it rest for 30 minutes. So usually I like to do this before breakfast, and then while it's resting for 30 minutes, I'll get breakfast ready and we'll eat breakfast, and then it's like perfect timing for afterwards. Alrighty, here we are half an hour later. We have our dough. It's just been sitting here autolyzing. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves a little bowl to measure out some sea salt. So you just want to get 10 grams, which can really feel like a lot when you're weighing it. But there we go. So you want to get 10 grams of sea salt. Sprinkle that over your dough. And then you want to get 25 grams of water, lukewarm again. So 25 grams. Perfect. And you want to drizzle that over your dough. And then the first thing you want to do is you want to poke it in with your fingers. So you're not like mixing it, you just want to stab it in like this. Just give it a good little stab. And then you want to incorporate it all together by folding the dough over itself about probably like 10 times. So definitely like use your hands. So you just grab it, stretch, and then you fold it. Super easy. I just go in a clockwise motion. I just fold top to bottom. Make sure you're grabbing all the dough, like right at the bottom as well. So yeah, you just keep rotating, folding. It's gonna be pretty wet, but yeah, so this just helps really incorporate that salt. Get it all nicely mixed up. And after this, you are just gonna cover it again and let it sit for another 30 minutes. Literally could not be easier. Like you can keep doing all the things you do in your morning. So I can keep like helping Thomas have his breakfast, clean up the kitchen, play with Thomas, and it's just these little interludes. Pretty much every half hour to an hour, you're gonna be folding this dough, but it takes about, I don't know, 2 minutes. And then you just keep going with your morning, and it's super easy. So there you go. I'm gonna wash my hands, cover that, and let it sit for half an hour. Okay, it's been half an hour, and so now we're just gonna do a fold. So the easiest way I find to do this is to wet your hands first, just to prevent it sticking too much. So you got pretty wet hands, and then you want to stretch out the one side of the dough. So here I'm doing the left side. Stretch it out and fold to the center. Stretch out the top of the dough. Fold to the center. The right side of the dough. Fold to the center, and then the bottom. And that's literally all you have to do. So now you let that sit another 30 minutes and you do the same thing again. Also, you need to give it at least 30 minutes to rest, but you can of course give it longer as well. So if you need to run to the grocery store, you're in the middle of doing something else, it's okay if it's over half an hour. You could leave it for an hour or so. But yeah, you don't want to do less than half an hour. So you're gonna do 2 more folds where you let it rest for half an hour. And then after your third fold, so including this one, 2 more, and so that's 3 altogether. And then after that, you're gonna let it rest for a longer time. It's gonna be anywhere from an hour and a half to 3 hours. Okay, fold number 2. So again, wet your hands. All right. Fold the left into the center. Top into the center, right into the center, and then the bottom into the center, and you're done. Cover that, give it another half hour. All right, so it's been probably about 45 minutes since my last fold, which is fine. And so now I'm just gonna do 1 more fold. So again, top, left. Really doesn't matter kind of which order you do, just as long as you get all the 4 corners up. Perfect. And now we're gonna cover that and leave that to rest for anywhere between an hour and a half to 3 hours. Just whatever works best in your little schedule for the day. All right, so now it's been about probably just over 3 hours, so a bit longer than I intended, but here we are. So you wanna dump all your dough out onto a floured surface. So just wrangle it out of there.
Great. And then you want to just grab a knife, flour it a little bit, and just, you can either cut it in half for 2 smaller loaves, or you can leave it as 1 big loaf. Here we go. And so now you want to pre-shape your loaves. So super easy, you just gather the 4 sides of the dough together like when you were folding them, and then just sprinkle it with flour and cover with a towel. So you just go boom, like that. There we go, so just a nice loose little fold. Same with your other loaf. There we go. Sprinkle those with flour. Cover those and let them rest for half an hour. Okay, so after about half an hour, here they are. And now what you want to do is you want to form them into a nice and tight little ball. So you pretty much just grab any side, fold it in the middle, and just go work around your dough. And yeah, just keep going, flour your hands, make it easier as you need. Yeah, pretty much just, yeah. Make it nice and tight as possible to help keep it shape in the oven. Give it a nice rise. And then when you're pretty happy with it, nice little ball, what you want to do is you want to get a bowl with a floured kitchen towel in it, and you want to pop in your dough with the seams facing up. So where you've been folding like that, and just pop it in like that. Very good, and flour the top generously. And keep your towel over like that. So there you go. So you want to leave these at room temperature for about 3 to 4 hours. Otherwise, what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna put them in the fridge and then take them out tomorrow morning to cook them first thing. So I'll show you when I do that. But yeah, and then just repeat the process for your other dough if you have another one. All right, so it's now the next morning. So this will be either the morning after you've put your loaf in the fridge or 3 to 4 hours after letting it rest at room temperature. So you want to grab out some parchment paper. Get your little loaf. Then you will pretty much want to just pop it out so it's seam side down. Excellent. Then you want to dust it with some flour. And get a sharp knife or a lame and give it a score. So with the scoring, you want to make sure you have at least one nice deep cut. And then you can do more cosmetic ones. And there you go. So I like to just give my paper some handles. And so you're going to want to pop it in the oven at about 500 degrees Fahrenheit. Usually it's good to have your vessel already in the oven, preheating. Like there we go. So I just have like a little Dutch oven here. Gather my dough, pop it in the oven. And you want to have it covered. Hot Tom Thumb. And there you go. I couldn't resist. I've already like cut into it and buttered it. But what beautiful little loaves. So these are like quite small little loaves, but you can just leave it as one big loaf as well. But yeah, it's got a beautiful open crumb. Enjoy.